What's up, guys? So I caught up with Matt Hammer. Remember Matt? He's the guy that was sound checked and lost his fast lap time at Southwick. He was so much fun to talk to. I was like, dude, you got to come back on. So he came on and we talked about Millville. We talked about Chance Hymas versus Haiden Deegan. We talked about Tom Vial folding and how good Levi Kitchen looked. And honestly, I planned on doing one show and it was going to be about 15 to 30 minutes. Of course, I get on talking with Matt, and he is so well-spoken and such a good dude. We ended up talking for, I don't know, almost an hour. So I'm breaking it up into two shows. Today I'm dropping the 250s because, let's be real, Chance Hymas versus Haiden Deegan is the best rivalry we've got going, and I'm really happy to hear Chance Hymas is going to try and race Washougal. Even though he's hurt, he's still going to tough it out. But I want to thank the sponsors. Coach Rob, head over to the Coach Rob podcast. He's got a show with Toolman Dan where they talk about vet motocross and how to prepare, how to recover, and a lot of the struggles that the working man has to prepare for these races. It's a great show. I strongly recommend you check it out. Epic Garage Designs. Travis at Epic has some of the coolest stuff. He'll make your garage look insanely badass, but he's doing a July special. You get a couple cabinets, the tall, really big cabinets, 80 by 81 inches. Two of those shipped $27.50. EpicGarageDesigns.com. Ride Strapped. Get your patriotic goggles. These things are cool. This is a company who really believes in unity in America. It's about people. It's about the right thing. So check out Ride Strapped. Get your shirt, get your goggles. Great company. Precision Transport. Precision Transport is a trucking company. It isn't like a normal trucking company. They actually care about customer service and they have reasonable pricing. Club MX has already used them and they loved it. It was a great experience. So check out Precision Transport, pretransport.com.
You need people like me so you can point your fucking fingers and say, that's the bad guy.
So Matt Hammer, you're back, dude. It's hammer time. How are you?
Good. How are you doing, Chris?
Excellent. And I was stoked on the race this weekend. What did you think of Millville in the 250 class?
There's a lot of chaos, especially in that second moto. Once that rain came down and they went off that line, that was the crazy part. The first moto, I was pretty it got awesome, especially towards the ends, those last finishing laps, seeing Levi pull off the first win, Vial right there, Deegan coming back, showing his speed. It was good to see all those top guys up front. It was good to see Levi rebound, especially after some tough rounds. And I was kind of curious what he was thinking with Masterpool being up front, Masterpool taking wins, and he was supposed to be essentially Levi's the A guy, and then Masterpool is supposed to be the B guy, so being the fill-in. So I'm happy to see him bounce back and get up front, especially how talented Levi is. You can just tell by his riding style and his technique, some of the things he's doing on the bike.
Yeah, and I can tell you for 100% absolute, it stung when they had to see Masterpool, who they've been planning on Levi Kitchen getting that 300th win, to see all those ads go out with Masterpool holding that 300 plate. It didn't sit well, and it really did put him into a funk. And I heard he had a practice crash. I heard he wasn't just fatiguing. I heard he had some injuries, and he did look better that second moto the week before. And I'm like, I think this might be it. And I do a gambling show. I don't know how you feel about gambling, but they had him at 10 to 1 dog. And I was like, put money on Levi. I think 10 to 1's way too big.
Yeah, did you end up betting on him
for
Levi for this round?
I put $5 on and made $50.
Oh, nice.
Somebody bet big and they came in and thanked me and they gave me one of the super chats for a significant amount of money. I'm like, dang, I appreciate that, but don't be mad when I'm wrong next time.
Yeah, that was good. That was a good turnaround for Levi. I don't know. Isn't he from out west, like towards Washougal area over there in Washington?
Yeah, he can actually ride to the Washougal track without loading up. That's where he's from, which is ironic because he's really good at these sandy or back east tracks and he's not as good at Washougal. It's kind of weird.
Yeah, it is interesting. I'm curious to see, how he will do stacking up to Washougal. But, he stepped up this weekend. He did what he needed to do. He got the sweep. I mean, people could say what they want, even with the second moto. Oh, it was a mud race. Oh, Deegan went down. This happened, but that's motocross. There's a lot of variables, especially when you throw in the mud and the tough conditions. I mean, he was the person out there and got the job done.
Okay, in that first moto, were you surprised to see Deegan he didn't fade, but he didn't make a charge? He said he got arm pump, and I don't think I've ever heard him say that.
Yeah, so you saw that he went down in the first moto, right?
Yep.
He was, he's out front leading, and then he goes down, and that takes energy. I don't know how hot it was that day, but it looked pretty hot, like the guys were in their ice baths in between motos, right? Wasn't that
It
Masterpool
didn't
or
look
Kitchen?
that hot. I mean, on the starting line, like you look at the mechanics, they were dressed with like long sleeves. A couple of them had jackets. So I don't know what the
Okay.
temperature was, but it didn't look abnormally hot. Maybe
Okay.
that was just because the rain came in the second moto, but it didn't look extra hot. I've seen Millville in worse conditions, but I was just kind of surprised with him and his late moto charges. I expected him to come and he didn't, but I think his bike setup was wrong. It looked to me in that first moto like he had something off, and it was
Mm.
all over the place on those downhills.
Yeah. So like I was watching him too, and he's rides so loose and so free that he could make the bike work. It seems like even if it's off a couple clicks or compression, rebound, the way that he rides, he kind of rides like a young Ricky Carmichael, like very wild, very aggressive, but doesn't fall and doesn't really make those mistakes. I mean, granted, he's still young, he's still coming up and ironing those things out, but I think when he went down, Chris, that took away some energy, like just from, racing myself and having the experience. And too, like when you go down and then you have to get up again and regroup, like maybe his front wheel was a little bit off. Maybe he just lost a little bit of energy and then when he had to get back up to Vial and Kitchen, like made that charge up to them, that takes a lot of energy just to get to their rear tires. And then to make the pass is another burst of energy that you need, right? So I wonder if he was thinking maybe at Redbud, because we know he went down at Redbud and the whole thing that happened with the flagging situation. But was he concerned about like, oh, I want to have something in the tank for the second moto this time around compared to Redbud?
Well, he did say that he had arm pump, so
Yeah,
and maybe that's because of that. I don't know. Okay, now let's get to the second moto. Now Levi Kitchen skipped the hot lap, and then
yeah,
Tom Vial put on a new tire. First off, I think skipping the hot lap is stupid. But I mean, obviously it worked, but I would just want to see the track. I don't know how you feel. And then I would never, ever, ever want them to rip my tire off that close to a race. It would just stress me out. I don't know why you can't just do a burnout.
yeah. It reminds me of the Jet situation when they were trying to get his tire and they just got it on that one time. Yeah, that's stressful. So I think Levi, it was a risky move by doing that because he kept his tire clean, which on that grid, that metal grid, it was really important because now you're getting more contact with that rubber on that grate. So you're going to get a better launch coming out of the gate. So that's what he was probably thinking with not taking that sight lap. I don't know exactly how muddy it was. I know it did pour. We saw that. They took that, delay there. Um, but it's a catch. It could go both ways because that first lap you could feel a little uncomfortable in a spot, or maybe you didn't recognize something and can go down because you didn't see it prior. So you're putting it all in for the start. It's kind of like what some guys do with the tire. Like, all right, I'm putting the paddle on for the start, but I'm going to suffer the rest of the race just because I want to get the start. So I think that's what he was thinking with that move.
And then what would you do? Like what's going through your mind as somebody's changing your tire and the 30-second like the board goes up and you're just grabbing your bike. Like that would stress me out. I need to get there, settle and lock in. I don't like that move. I don't think the benefit matches the risk. I just
Mm.
don't see that.
Yeah, it's too much. It's a lot of stress on top of a stressful situation, and it's going to go one or two ways. It's going to help you focus more and give you that little extra spike of adrenaline that you need to just laser in on that gate and just rock it out, or you're going to be a little bit flustered and make a mistake because I before I race, I like to do warm up. I like to be on my spin bike. I like to get the blood flowing, do a little stretching. Then on the line, if I'm waiting there for a little bit in staging, like I'm doing jumping jacks. Like even in the morning before time qualifiers, I'm down there doing jumping jacks. I don't care if I look silly. Like it doesn't matter to me what I'm looking like. Like I know this works and this helps me perform better when I go out there. So it could be stressful with the wheel. I wouldn't like that feeling because what if they don't put it on? What if they don't tighten it completely? Like as a rider, you're not going to be thinking about that. You're putting complete trust in them, but as a spectator, you're thinking that. But it's still too close for comfort.
I just think those risks, I just think it's honestly, I think it's stupid. I think you
Yeah.
throw it on the stand, you give it a rev, give it a wipe and scrub the mud down and throw them on the line. I don't think it's a big, like it only matters like 3 feet out. After that, it doesn't matter. It's just way too much risk. I don't understand why they think that that's the good idea. It's not like the tire's worn out from the hot lap. I don't see the benefit. I think it's stupid and I think they shouldn't do it.
It's tough. Like I said, he pulled a risky card, and it did play out for him in the long term. Long term, it did. But I think I would have taken the hot lap. I wouldn't care if I got a little muddy. I don't care if my tire would have got that way. I'd rather see the track. I'd rather just get eyes on it. And it's not just eyes, Chris, but like feeling the track, like kind of feeling how your bike is going to push into that berm. Is it going to sink? Are you going to ride a little bit on top? Like because when it rains, there's two different kinds of mud. There's like a watery mud where it's just constantly pouring and it's like a harder base and it runs off, but it's like a slick mud. And then there's like that sticky, heavy mud. So you even with mud, there's different feels on the tire. So I like that feeling of knowing what to expect before I go out there.
Yeah, and if it's not a complete swamp, I'm always taking the hot lap. That's just me. But okay, let's move on to the first turn. So this season we've had some controversy. Hymas
Yeah.
and Deegan, and they've had words. Deegan seems to think that every chance Hymas gets, he's riding him dirty. What did you see going into that first turn?
Yeah, I saw a normal racing incident. I didn't think Chance was doing anything dirty when I watched it. I watched it back a few times and Hayden had that inside, and then you see Chance sweep in from that outside, but it didn't look from that angle like he deliberately cut him off. I think he came in, and what happens is when you're coming in that hot into that turn and it's muddy, you can't brake the same. The bike skates around a little bit, like it's almost like hitting ice. If your car hits ice, you start to slide a little bit, and I think he came in hot, started to slide, and the way that tire caught, it got into where Deegan was, and he unfortunately Deegan got the brunt of it, but when someone has that wheel on you, you have to let off. Like you can't do anything there. But I don't think Deegan was able to let off because he was coming hot as well and it was muddy and soft. So if he jammed the brakes, he would knife even earlier. Like let's say he tried to stop a little bit before Chance cut over on him. He could have done that early in the turn than later in the turn if he didn't tag on the Chance right there. I don't think it was deliberate though. We would have saw if it was a deliberate takeout or intentional. It's frustrating. It happens, but I think this definitely adds to the rivalry of what's going on between them a little bit. And I think it's good for Deegan, right? Like he has that mentality. He kind of likes to have enemies. He kind of likes to put himself the target on his back, and that pressure helps him perform. It kind of reminds me of Conor McGregor when he was younger coming up and kind of saying things, a little bit of trash talk, a little bit of that ego and speaking it out there and putting that pressure on himself. And he actually performs well under it and is able to back it up from what we've been seeing. So that's just his character. That's just his type from what we've seen so far. And I think we're going to be seeing more of it going forward. And I wouldn't be surprised as it transitions as they go into their later years into 250s and into 450s.
Oh, I agree 100% on the take on Deegan and his personality. And I almost think Brian should offer me and a lot of other media guys money to just talk bad about Hayden so he comes out there and just destroys everything that we said. Because it seems every single time I say something like that about him, he's not ready, this, that, he just totally smashes me. But I will say, going in that first turn, when a guy has got me a couple times, and
Yeah.
as a rider, sometimes you literally almost can't see it from the side. But we know when somebody is squeezing or riding dirty and doing those little tiny things that you can't see them on video, but the two riders know exactly what happened. I think that there's been multiple of those issues, and Hayden's probably a little bit sensitive to it. And Hymas is trying to assert himself in there and say, hey, I'm not your, so sorry, I don't mean to swear, but, and I think that's what Hymas is doing. And I think I get it. And at some point there becomes a boiling point. And I think we saw that.
Yeah, the thing is though, too, it's like for Hymas, I don't know if you're in that position, you're battling, it's tough because you're also going to have to say it. If it, you know how important it is. Like it, even talking at the press conferences or post press conference, that body language says things in itself, like how they're talking, how they're acting, how they're responding. So if Chance really wants to play this whole game out, he needs to act that way off the track as well, not just on it. Like hold his ground and stand firm is what I'm saying. I'm not saying be a punk. I'm not saying trash talk or get involved in that, but hold his ground and not show himself being phased. Like we see it all the time in UFC and other combat sports and free for all sports. But yeah, we don't know exactly what happened if we have that first person view on Hayden and Chance there. I just from my perspective though, it didn't look like Chance did that deliberately right there. But we don't know what's going on in time qualifying. We don't know what's going on behind the scenes. Are they cutting each other off? Are they trying to hold each other up? Like there's a long day besides just what we see on the screen. Why people get taken out. Like you'll see someone take someone out in a motocross and you're like, what was that for? That was so odd, like deliberately, but then you don't know what happened in qualifying or maybe the week before. And that it all adds up. And these guys remember every time someone takes them out, like, all right, I owe you one. And even if I don't get you this time, then it's like they're thinking about the next time when they can do that.
And it's crazy how the mind works. I've been on the track and I'll see a guy. One guy took out my brother months ahead of time. And as soon as he was in front of me, He did a couple of those little things that nobody would notice on the side where they start chopping and just being in lines. And you know when somebody's doing that. But like I said, it's really hard to tell from the side. So I blast them, and then everyone's like, why'd you do that? And I'm like, well, you just remember all that stuff. And I think that's what's going on. And I don't think it's over the top, but I think it makes for good racing, and I appreciate it.
I do think though, Chance is going to have to step up his game with aggression or something else because I think Deegan definitely has the edge on him mentally and physically. Because I think that Deegan, if he needs to get dirty, can get dirty, and we've seen that. Going back to the Jordan Smith incident a long time ago, we've seen it. Happen in Supercross when he gets mad at riders. He knows how to ride that way. We haven't really seen Chance ride that way, and that's a skill set in itself. I remember when I was first riding and learning, just passes and doing a lot of drills. Like I've been to GPF, I've been to Club MX, I've been to MTF, a lot of these facilities, and there were some drills that I've done before on my own, like practicing takeouts and block passes. It just to have it in my back pocket if I need it. Not that I'm trying to, but it's its own art and own skill. Stopping a certain way, squaring up the turn, braking a certain way, making sure that you're protecting these insides. And I know that Deegan is very skilled there, and I think Chance is super talented and light on the bike, but I haven't seen him really get to that like dirty, aggressive side yet. So it'll be interesting to see if he can keep up if the battle dives in that deep.
Well, and that's one of those things where if that's not Chance's game, if he can't do that, he needs to just stay away from that. Do not get dragged into it. Don't try and pay him back. We saw when Ken Roxon tried to do that with Webb. It didn't go well. Guys have to stay in their own game. And, if you serve revenge by winning, then that's what Chance should do. If Chance isn't good at taking out, just try and beat him. Maybe say something on the podium. I wouldn't get into that with someone who's better than that. But I'll tell you a guy that will be amazing at that. Once Casey Cochran finds that front runner speed, and he will, that dude has every single dirty skill in the book. I mean, I've watched him through the amateurs, and I watched him take Levi's lines all over the place. He's good at it, and he is going to cause some problems, and I can't wait.
Yeah, he really impressed me in that second moto. That was a breakout ride for him, leading that moto for so long. Even though it's a mud race, a lot of the top guys, went down and had issues. For him being out there that long, that's huge mentally for him going forward. And he'll be able to carry that into the next rounds, especially with the points on the line. Like I see Deegan, he could do a Webb and just send it like, all right, I'm the guy and go out and win. But I think for his first title outdoors, he might play it a little bit smart once he knows he can clinch it.
Possibly, but I mean, he's going to be tough. Remember how good Deegan was at Washougal last year? And if he goes 1-1 there, I mean, he's already got a 50-point lead. I mean, he almost, at that point, there's no reason to be conservative because he's pretty much got it.
But he's his own worst enemy too, right? Like I don't see anyone beating Haiden, but Haiden.
Oh, it's been his championship since Southwick. As soon as he got through Southwick without, losing points, which that was the one everyone circled and said, hey, can he get through Southwick? That's where Tom Vial is going to be really good. That's where we're going to make up points. Once that was over, I'm like, okay, well, this is no longer anyone else's to win. It's his to lose. And he's just got to make sure he doesn't make any of those big mistakes.
I was impressed though. You're right. With Cochran, he really hit it off that moto. And then to be on the podium too was a great feat.
Oh, that was cool. I like that kid and his family, and I think they're a lot of fun, and I think they're going to be entertaining. So I was disappointed in Tom Vial. He had everything set up to win the race, gain a significant amount of points, and it looked to me like he folded like a pretzel. Like he went down, and then he like lollygags in for goggles, and then he has an issue. I'm like, that's the difference between a dog like Deegan and someone who just wins when it's there and they can't do it on their bad days. And I was very disappointed in the effort I saw from Tom Vial.
Yeah, especially being an MXGP, well, the lights championship over there. He won that. So having that championship experience, we do expect more, and he has a little bit more pressure on him. And then coming off the Supercross title. And yeah, there was just so much chaos going on in that mud. And I agree. I expected more out of him, especially being from that background in Europe and France. They're used to mud. They see more mud races than we do. They're used to beat tracks and slippery tracks and riding those conditions. So for him to handle that way was kind of a sign of him, folding under pressure. And we saw this, at rounds before too, Chris. Like when we even go back and look at what happened at Southwick, he went down in the later stages. At Redbud, I felt like he could have performed better as well. There's just I think this championship is slipping away for him pretty quickly.
Oh, it's gone. It's 100% gone. His next bet is just to get up as many points as he can and go for that SMX. And I think the SMX is going to be a big deal. What do you think of the SMX?
Yeah, this year it'll be a big deal. I mean, the money will be nice for the guys for sure. They'll get a nice payout compared to usual. But yeah,
Yeah.
no, I think it's going to be a big deal this year. They know what to expect. There's all the hype around that. That's what they're really trying to push with everything going forward. And I think Vial actually excels more indoors, outdoors from what I've seen. Um, he really threw down in some of the Supercross rounds without whoops, not with whoops, kind of like Moose can a little bit. They're very similar in that way, but I like to see his speed. Like I think he's so smooth and technical. He has that like that French style that really helped him in the Supercross rounds. And I think for Deegan, we expected more out of Supercross from him. And he's like, no, I've kind of been more of an outdoor guy. When I saw some of his interviews, he was talking about that in Supercross. He had to pick up and learn a little bit more, and he did. I think he got it now, but it took a little bit longer than how we saw Vial adapt to it.
See, and I don't know if that's a fair comparison though, because he came into the season with a broken wrist. I mean, remember nobody
That's
was
true
talking
too.
about it, and he got better towards the end. He was good, but we'll
Yeah.
move on from the 250s here. Any 250 stuff that you want to talk about before we move to the 450s?
Oh no, I think that about covers it. Yeah, that's true. I did forget about Deegan's broken wrist coming in though. I remember that, and they pushed him back.
Yeah, they didn't exactly announce it, which is so dumb. Okay, well, before we go on to the 450s, I don't understand why they hide injuries. It does no good. It's not like a sport like the UFC or hockey where you can attack it. And it's, when I raced somebody and I knew they were hurt, because all the other riders eventually know anyway. If I knew somebody was hurt and I beat them, I was like, cool, I was supposed to. But if they beat me, it was demoralizing. So I almost think it's an advantage to let people know. I understand not wanting to make excuses. Come on, let the fans know. We need to know the story.
Yeah, we look at mainstream sports, like they know way ahead and it's all broadcasted everywhere. But from our sport, it's hidden. They don't want to say anything. And unfortunately, I don't really see that changing because they want to have that edge. Whatever it is, whatever mental edge that can give them, that they have it, right? Like when you show up at the starting line, Chris, and you're racing and you haven't seen a guy since, obviously they're doing supercross to motocross. So there's a little bit of breather there, not too long, but you don't see them in a few weeks and they've been training and like, all right, like wonder if their program's different. I wonder how much faster they got. You don't really know until you get on the track. And without knowing if they had an injury or not, you could think they're at this level and they may be at a lower level. But it does give them a slight advantage just not saying anything. And it's almost like some guys just look fast. They may not be as fast as they are, but it's like that mental edge of like, all right, before you go out on the track and before you see the lap times, they have that. They have that in their head.
But if I come in and I see that I'm faster than Deegan and I look at the timesheets, I go, oh, I got him. And I don't know that his wrist is hurt, I get this amazing amount of confidence. Whereas
Mm.
if I know he's hurt, I don't get it. So I don't see the advantage to it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, maybe after the race they could say something, but then you got to go to the motos and see how they perform in the motos. So some guys will have bad qualifiers, not really feel too hot, but then they're spiked up on the adrenaline and suddenly, the pain goes away or they're not feeling it so much anymore. I mean, look at, Chance, he's dealing with what did they say, ACL injury still?
Yep.
He needs to get surgery and he didn't get that yet. And he's riding with it. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah, ACL is a weird one though. They affect everybody a little bit differently. I tore my ACL in my right knee, never got it fixed, and it's my good knee. Like
Mm.
I have zero issues. You'd never know I didn't have an ACL unless you do an MRI. Some people, it pops out. It goes left, right. You just don't know. And hopefully he's one of those guys. Maybe he never has to get it fixed. I mean, John Elway, the football player, he played his whole career with no ACL.
He
So
didn't Chance mess up his ankle? Didn't he sprain his ankle with that when Deegan hit him there? Because remember he lifted up his boot and then he pulled off in the second
yes,
moto.
yeah, it looked
That's
pretty
what it
bad.
that's what it's confirmed though, right? Like the sprained ankle right now.
That's I don't know for sure, and I'm waiting for them to make the announcement. It's probably popped through today before I get this posted. People probably already be telling us what it was, but I was told ankle, lower ankle, nothing's broken, and he's going to try and ride Washougal.
Yeah, I was
So
surprised to see that. Like, but that was interesting to get hit right there and then also to get that injury. That caught me a little off guard.
yeah, I thought it magnified the ACL, and I thought, okay, well that's it. Go get it fixed right now, but we'll see. Okay, all right, brother. We're going to wrap this up. But I thank you so much. So let's talk a little bit about you first. Did you get into Unadilla?
Yeah, I probably won't find out till like Tuesday or Wednesday, like 2 days before the event or 3 days, because they didn't tell me before Southwick until like Tuesday afternoon, and then I have to show up like Friday. So I won't even know till then, like the week of, like that late, if I get in for Unadilla.
Okay, for anyone that doesn't know, Matt Hammer races nationals. He does a couple of years, a fireman. If you didn't watch the other interview, and he's entered Unadilla. When did you send your entry in?
I sent it in exactly when I sent in my Southwick entry. So we're looking at over 2 months.
2 months in advance. They have not told him whether he is or isn't in the race. And it's in what, 3 weeks, 2 weeks? So 3 weeks out, he still doesn't have an answer, which is ridiculous. And I understand there's some issues that needs to be fixed and the flaggers need to be fixed. Flaggers probably first because it's safety, but they have to have some sort of a waiting list for you guys. That's frustrating, but I don't want to beat a dead horse. What else is going on with you? What's your schedule looking like after Unadilla? Anything on the docket?
Yeah, I mean, I would like to do Unadilla. I got to first wait and see if I get accepted. I honestly like right now the way my work schedule falls with my tours and my squads, like I have to work shifts on Unadilla weekends. So it's not looking likely right now that I can attend, but I'm not pulling out my entry or anything. I just want to see first if I get accepted and then go from there. But right now it's going to be tough just because like it's hard to switch my schedule once it's kind of locked in. I have to get someone to work for me. It's doable, but sometimes it's hard, especially on the weekends and in the summer. You'll have less guys and more guys not wanting to switch.
And now I know you work as a rider coach too, right?
Yes, yeah, I do a lot of group training, rider training. And that's like I said, I have experience in it. I've been doing it a long time, and my main focus is ministry, and I'm actually going to be combining a lot of motocross training with ministry as well. So I'm excited to be doing some camps and stuff. Like I know some people from Motocross for Christ, and some people told me about I think it's like FCA camp, but I want to start doing that over here in the Northeast, and then offering camps, Christian motocross camps and doing like 1 day events with it. Coming from a motocrosser approach to have kids and adults and people be willing to listen, have an open ear instead of some of the more traditional ways where you see a suit and tie pastor on stage. Like I'm thinking something like Nitro Circus, but with church and motocross combined.
I absolutely love it. Where can people find this?
The easiest way right now to support is just to hopping on and going on my IG, my Instagram. It's just Matt Hammer _ or even going to hammerchurch.com. We're doing some updates on the website right now though, but so the best way to stay updated on everything is on Instagram, hammerchurch.com, or I'm sorry, Instagram Matt Hammer _ or to just follow on any of the socials. It's the same thing with TikTok and also on YouTube. I got a lot of my bigger projects on there. Oh, and the cool thing is I got the Southwick video, my videographer, Jared Berg, he's putting it together. So that'll be pretty cool. So I'm excited. And I actually use a few of the interviews that you gave me. So we're gonna tag your handle in there and everything else. It'll be like a cool, like how the riders are doing the vlog. We're making it a little more cinematic.
Dude, that's
Like
awesome.
that.
I love it. I appreciate it. I thank you so much for your time.
Sounds good, Chris. Well, thank you for having me on and everything else. I really appreciate it. It was fun.
Anytime, man. I really, really appreciate it. Thanks, Matt.
All right. Take care, Chris.